The headlines hit before dawn. Business tycoon Marcus Hale under investigation for embezzlement. Wife and co-CEO, Evelyn Hale, files for divorce amid scandal. Evelyn stared at the glowing phone screen, the words blurring as her chest tightened. Even though she had known this day was coming, had planned for it, the reality still cut deeper than she imagined. The house was silent, eerily so. The marble floors gleamed under the soft morning light, and the faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. It should have been an ordinary day, but everything about it screamed finality. She placed the phone down, her reflection flickering faintly in the glass table. A woman who looked put together, but whose life had just been dismantled overnight. "Evelyn," came a voice from the doorway. Her assistant, Claire, stood there, holding a folder tightly. "The press is gathering outside. Do you want to release the statement now?" Evelyn's voice was calm, almost unnaturally so. "Yes. Send it." Claire hesitated, searching Evelyn's face. "Are you sure you want to do this today?" "Yes," Evelyn said simply. "He made his choices. Now I'm making mine." Just hours ago, Marcus Hale had been the face of Hale Industries. Charming, brilliant, and untouchable. Together, they had built an empire from scratch. Their partnership had been both business and marriage, bound by shared ambition and unspoken trust. Or so she had thought. 2 weeks ago, she discovered the discrepancies. Small transfers that grew into millions, all buried beneath layers of shell companies and false invoices. At first, she couldn't believe it. Not Marcus. Not the man who had shared her dreams. But the evidence was undeniable. When she confronted him, his face had gone pale, and for the first time in years, he had no smooth words, no confident smirk. "Evelyn," he'd said, voice breaking, "it's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is," she demanded. "Because the numbers don't lie." That was the night everything shattered. Her marriage, her trust, her belief that they were a team. Now, standing in front of the window, she watched the reporters gathering beyond the gate, cameras flashing like tiny, merciless stars. Her name was trending online. Half the world pitied her. The other half speculated whether she had known all along. The hypocrisy of it made her laugh bitterly. "They'll turn this into entertainment," she murmured. Claire shifted uncomfortably. "People will move on soon enough." Evelyn gave her a knowing look. People never move on from a scandal. They just wait for the next one. Still, she straightened her shoulders. She wouldn't let this destroy her. By noon, she arrived at the Hale Industries headquarters. The moment she stepped out of the car, the flashing lights and questions began. "Mrs. Hale, is it true your husband embezzled company funds? Did you know about the fraud before the investigation? Are you still the acting CEO?" Her security detail cleared a path, and she moved through the chaos with the same quiet poise she had worn for years, the one that hid her anger, her grief, and her determination to survive. Inside, the boardroom was tense. A dozen executives stood as she entered, unsure how to meet her gaze. She could feel their uncertainty, their hesitation, wondering if she'd fall apart, if the scandal would take her down with Marcus. Evelyn set her briefcase down and met each of their eyes. "Let's be clear," she said. "Marcus's actions do not represent this company. Hale Industries will cooperate fully with investigators. I will be stepping in as sole CEO effective immediately." The room was silent. Then one of the older board members, Mr. Caldwell, cleared his throat. "Mrs. Hale," he said carefully, "the media might question your involvement. We need to ensure shareholders trust your leadership." Her tone was cool but razor-sharp. "Then let's show them what real leadership looks like." By the time she left the office that evening, the sun was dipping below the skyline. The air outside was cooler, and the noise of the city hummed in the distance. She paused at the entrance, looking back at the building that had been her life's work, her and Marcus's dream. Now it was hers alone. Her phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. "You don't know the whole story. Meet me tomorrow, 8 a.m., Riverside Cafe." Evelyn frowned. The sender's name, Daniel Carter, the company's former financial auditor who had resigned months before the investigation began. Her pulse quickened. If Daniel was reaching out now, he might know something more. Maybe something that could change everything she thought she knew about Marcus, the scandal, and herself. She tucked her phone away and walked toward her car, determination hardening her features. She had already lost her marriage, her privacy, and the illusion of trust. But Evelyn Hale wasn't done. She was just getting started. The Riverside Cafe was quiet that morning, the aroma of coffee blending with the faint chill of autumn air. Evelyn arrived early, a notebook and pen in hand, trying to steel herself for whatever revelations Daniel Carter had to share. She spotted him immediately, a tall man with sharp features, suit slightly rumpled, and a look that combined guilt and urgency. Daniel had always been meticulous in his work, but now he seemed haunted. "Mrs. Hale," he said softly, rising as she approached. His voice carried the weight of someone who had been holding back a storm. "Daniel," Evelyn replied, taking a seat. She folded her hands over the table, her expression controlled, though her heart beat faster. "Thank you for meeting me." He sat, leaning forward slightly. "I know this is difficult, but I had to tell you what I discovered before the press did." Evelyn nodded. "Start from the beginning." Daniel took a deep breath. "When I audited Marcus's accounts last year, I noticed irregularities. Small at first, transactions that seemed innocent, nothing alarming enough to report externally. But when I dug deeper, I realized they pointed to something bigger." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "And yet you didn't report it immediately?" "I did internally," Daniel said, voice steady. "I warned the finance department, I warned Marcus, but he dismissed it. Told me I was overthinking, that it was all part of a strategic financial plan. I should have gone higher up, but I trusted him. And I regretted it the moment this scandal broke." She leaned back, letting the words sink in. "So you tried to protect him. And the company. But now it's too late for that," Daniel said grimly. "The embezzlement wasn't just Marcus. Someone else manipulated the books to make him look guilty. But the pattern wasn't his signature style. I think someone used him as a scapegoat." Evelyn's mind raced. "A scapegoat? Someone within the company?" Daniel nodded. "Yes. And I have the proof." He slid a folder across the table. Evelyn opened it carefully, scanning spreadsheets, emails, and internal memos. Her heart sank and then surged with determination as she realized he was telling the truth. "These aren't just numbers," she murmured. "These are fingerprints." "Exactly," Daniel said. "If you handle this correctly, you can clear Marcus's name, and the real culprit will be exposed. But you need to act fast. Once the media digs deeper, everything could be lost." Evelyn closed the folder and looked at him with a steely gaze. "And what do you want from me, Daniel?" "I want you to know the truth," he said. "And I want your help. You're the only one who can navigate both the business and the media. I can provide the evidence, but you have to present it carefully." She exhaled slowly. Her life had been turned upside down in just a few days. The divorce, the betrayal, the public scrutiny. But now, a spark of purpose ignited inside her. "I don't know if I can trust anyone," she admitted. "Not after everything. Not even Marcus." "You can trust me," Daniel said firmly. "I've already risked my career by coming forward. I wouldn't lie to you." Evelyn studied him, weighing the risk. But deep down, she knew she had little choice. Marcus had been her husband, her partner, and she wasn't going to let the truth be buried by lies. "All right," she said finally. "We do this my way. Step by step. We expose the real culprit, and then, we fix this mess." Daniel nodded, relief evident. "Agreed." Over the next few days, Evelyn dove headfirst into the investigation. She pored over financial reports, contacted trusted executives, and quietly traced every suspicious transaction. Every clue pointed to the same shadowy figure. Someone who had skillfully manipulated both the company and Marcus, leaving him to take the fall. Through it all, Evelyn felt something she hadn't in weeks. Control. Power. The certainty that she wasn't just a victim of circumstance. She was the one who could rewrite the story. And as she worked, she began to notice another emotion stirring. Admiration. Not for Marcus, who had betrayed her trust, but for Daniel, whose quiet integrity and courage reminded her that loyalty and respect still existed in a world that had seemed cold and unforgiving. By the end of the week, they had enough evidence to present a case, both to the board and to the authorities, that could clear Marcus's name and reveal the true embezzler. Evelyn looked at the stack of documents and felt a surge of confidence. "This isn't just about Marcus anymore," she said. It's about taking back control. About standing up for what's right, for the company, for the employees, and for myself. Daniel smiled faintly. And maybe finding a little justice along the way. Evelyn nodded. Justice. And maybe a new beginning. As she left the cafe that evening, folder in hand and determination in her step, Evelyn realized that the divorce had been just the start of her transformation. Betrayal had broken her heart, but it had also opened the door to a stronger, wiser, and more independent version of herself. And somewhere along the way, she had also discovered someone who truly respected her. Someone who could stand beside her, not above or below, in a partnership built on honesty and trust. For the first time in weeks, Evelyn smiled. She wasn't just surviving the scandal. She was thriving. Evelyn arrived at Hale Industries headquarters with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in weeks. Gone was the anxious, betrayed woman who had spent the past days in shock. Today she was a leader on a mission, and everyone in the building felt it. Her heels clicked sharply on the polished marble floor as she approached the boardroom. The executives had been briefed to expect her, but the tension in the air was palpable. Marcus's name hung over the room like a storm cloud, and while he was technically absent from this meeting, his reputation had been under siege for days. Evelyn stepped into the room, carrying the folder of evidence that Daniel had provided. She placed it on the table with authority. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady and commanding, "we are here because Hale Industries has been compromised. But make no mistake, this is not a failure of the company. It is the result of one individual's manipulation. I have the evidence to prove who is responsible." Heads turned, some skeptical, some relieved. Murmurs rippled across the room, but Evelyn ignored them, focusing on her next words. "I will not allow Marcus's name to be tarnished by someone else's crime. We will present this evidence to the authorities, and we will ensure that the true culprit is held accountable. From this moment forward, I will be taking full control as acting CEO until the investigation concludes. I expect your full cooperation." The boardroom fell silent. Then Mr. Caldwell, one of the oldest and most cautious members, spoke. "Evelyn, if this information is accurate, you're not just defending Marcus's reputation. You're risking the company's stability. How can we be certain that these claims are legitimate?" She met his gaze firmly. "Because we have a paper trail, emails, and witness statements. Daniel Carter has provided the full audit, and I have personally verified every transaction. We will act swiftly, decisively, and transparently. The company will not suffer because of deceit." The silence lingered for a moment before a few members began to nod, finally seeing her determination and clarity. Evelyn could feel the tide turning. After the boardroom, she spent hours coordinating with legal teams, Daniel, and trusted executives. Every phone call, every email, every meeting reinforced one truth. She was not just surviving the scandal, she was shaping its outcome. During a brief pause in the afternoon, Daniel approached her. "You're incredible," he said quietly. "I've never seen anyone handle a crisis like this." Evelyn smiled faintly. "I've learned that losing trust doesn't mean losing power. And I refuse to let someone else's betrayal dictate my future." Daniel hesitated, then added softly, "And yet, you've managed to keep your heart intact through all of this." She looked at him, caught off guard by the sincerity in his tone. "My heart is intact because I've learned who deserves it," she said. "And who doesn't?" He smiled, a flicker of warmth in his eyes, and for a moment, the tension of the scandal melted between them. By the next day, Evelyn was ready to confront the press. She had rehearsed her statement, but when she stepped up to the podium, she realized that preparation could never match the certainty she now felt. "Good morning," she began, her voice ringing clear and confident. "Over the past week, Hale Industries has faced a serious challenge. My former husband, Marcus Hale, has been falsely implicated in financial wrongdoing. After a thorough investigation, we have discovered the true source of the embezzlement. With the full cooperation of authorities, the responsible party has been identified and will face legal consequences." The room erupted in flashbulbs and murmurs. Evelyn held her gaze steady, letting the truth settle over the audience. "This company will not be defined by deceit or scandal," she continued. "Hale Industries will continue to thrive, built on integrity, accountability, and leadership. I am proud to lead that charge." The applause that followed wasn't just polite. It was genuine. The employees, investors, and media recognized the strength and poise in Evelyn. She had reclaimed her position, her reputation, and her dignity. Later that evening, back in her apartment, Evelyn allowed herself a rare moment to exhale. Daniel sat across from her, a quiet presence that contrasted with the adrenaline-fueled chaos of the day. "You did it," he said simply. "We did it," she corrected, a small smile tugging at her lips. "I couldn't have done it without you. Without the evidence, without your courage, we wouldn't have been able to prove the truth." He leaned back, eyes thoughtful. "You were remarkable out there. The way you commanded the room. The way you stood your ground. It's inspiring." Evelyn laughed softly, a sound full of relief and pride. "It feels good to be in control again. To be respected for what I can do, not for who I was married to, or what scandal surrounds me." Daniel looked at her, his expression a mixture of admiration and something softer, deeper. "And maybe," he said hesitantly, "finding someone who truly respects you isn't such a bad thing either." Evelyn met his gaze, a spark of curiosity and warmth stirring inside her. "Maybe," she agreed. For the first time since the divorce, she allowed herself to believe that life could be more than just surviving betrayal. It could be about thriving, rebuilding, and discovering unexpected possibilities, both in business and in love. The city skyline glimmered as Evelyn stepped out of her car, her heels clicking against the polished marble of the building's entrance. The past week had been a whirlwind, the embezzlement scandal exposed, Marcus's name cleared, and Hale Industries slowly stabilizing under her leadership. Yet amidst all the professional victories, there was one unexpected element she hadn't anticipated: Daniel. Daniel Carter had become an indispensable ally. Beyond providing the critical audit evidence, he had an uncanny ability to anticipate problems, think strategically, and remain calm under pressure. Qualities Evelyn admired deeply. What she hadn't expected was the way his presence made her feel seen, respected, and safe in a world that had recently betrayed her. She spotted him across the office, reviewing spreadsheets on a tablet. He looked up and their eyes met. A small smile flickered across his face, and Evelyn felt a warmth she hadn't realized she was craving. "Good morning," she said, her voice steady but carrying an undertone of playfulness. "Good morning," he replied, his tone casual but his gaze attentive. "Ready for another day of rebuilding the empire?" She chuckled softly. "Always. But today, I think we need to focus on more than just finances. We need to think about team morale. People have been through a lot." Daniel nodded. "Agreed. I've drafted a plan to meet with key department heads, outline our strategy, and reassure them that the company is stable. We can do it together." Evelyn paused, watching him carefully. "I'm glad you're here, Daniel. Honestly, I don't know how I would have navigated all this without you." He gave a small shrug, though the sincerity in his eyes was unmistakable. "You're a formidable leader, Evelyn. I just helped illuminate the path. You've been steering the ship all along." The warmth in her chest grew, but she quickly redirected her focus. The business was her priority, and feelings, complicated, tempting feelings, had to wait. Over the next few days, Evelyn found herself seeking Daniel's presence more often. Not just for his expertise, but for the calm and understanding he brought. When the media tried to corner her with intrusive questions, Daniel was there, deflecting, clarifying, and sometimes silently reminding her that she didn't need to fight alone. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Daniel suggested grabbing dinner together to decompress. Evelyn hesitated for a moment, a part of her wary from the betrayals of the past, but she finally agreed. The restaurant was intimate, dimly lit, with soft jazz playing in the background. They sat at a quiet table, away from the eyes of colleagues or journalists, and for the first time, Evelyn felt a sense of normalcy that had been absent for months. "You don't have to be perfect all the time, you know," Daniel said softly, stirring his coffee. "Even leaders need to breathe." Evelyn laughed lightly, a genuine sound she hadn't produced in days. "I've had a lot to process. The scandal, Marcus, the company. It's like life hit me with a sledgehammer." Daniel's eyes softened. "And you're standing tall despite it all. That's impressive." She studied him for a moment. "And you? Why are you here? Risking your career, helping me navigate all this?" "Because I believe in doing what's right," he said simply. "And because I see how capable you are. You deserve support, not betrayal or doubt. I wanted to make sure you had both." Her heart skipped a beat. Not just because of what he said, but because of how he made her feel, respected, understood, and even a little hopeful. Days turned into weeks, and Evelyn realized that her admiration for Daniel was deepening into something more, something she hadn't expected so soon. Their professional partnership had transformed into a quiet companionship, filled with subtle glances, shared smiles, and moments of understanding that didn't need words. One afternoon, as they walked through the company garden discussing the next quarter's strategy, Daniel stopped and looked at her seriously. "Evelyn," he said, "I need to ask you something. I know the timing is complicated, but would you consider letting me be more than just a colleague? More than just someone in your corner?" Evelyn's breath caught. She hadn't anticipated this, yet the thought of opening her heart, carefully, cautiously, felt natural with him. She began, then paused. She looked into his eyes and saw sincerity, respect, and patience. "I think I'd like that. But slowly. No rushing. I've been burned before." Daniel smiled, relief and tenderness blending in his expression. "Slowly," he agreed. "We'll take it one step at a time." Evelyn nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. For the first time since the scandal began, she allowed herself to imagine a future. Not just of business success, but of personal happiness and connection. That evening, as she returned to her apartment, Evelyn reflected on the unexpected turn her life had taken. What had started as betrayal and scandal had transformed into empowerment and newfound possibilities. She had survived the scandal. She had reclaimed her strength. And now, she was opening herself to a connection built on respect, honesty, and mutual admiration. Something she hadn't realized she'd been missing. And perhaps, she thought, this was the beginning of something even better than she had ever imagined. Evelyn sat in her office late that evening, the city lights outside casting a warm glow across her desk. The day had been long, filled with meetings, media inquiries, and planning sessions to ensure Hale Industries stayed strong after the scandal. Yet her mind wasn't on the spreadsheets or board presentations. It was on Daniel. Their relationship had grown quietly over the past weeks. Small moments of shared laughter, late-night strategy discussions, and the subtle reassurance that they could rely on each other. What had started as professional partnership had evolved into a deeper connection, one built on mutual respect and understanding. Still, Evelyn couldn't ignore the shadow of the past. Marcus had been more than just a husband. He had been a partner in life and business. And while she had moved on emotionally, the scandal still lingered in the background, threatening to disrupt everything she was trying to build. The next morning, Daniel arrived at her office with his usual calm presence. "Morning," he said, setting a cup of coffee on her desk. "Thought you might need this." She smiled faintly. "Thank you. I do." He leaned against the edge of the desk, observing her with an expression that was part concern, part admiration. "You've been carrying so much on your shoulders lately. Don't forget, it's okay to lean on someone else too." Evelyn hesitated, then met his gaze. "I know. It's just hard to let go completely. There's always the past, the scandal, and the people who tried to undermine me." Daniel nodded. "And yet here you are. Stronger than ever. You didn't just survive. You thrived. And anyone who tries to shake you now will see just how unshakable you are." Her heart warmed at his words, but a flicker of doubt remained. "What about loyalty?" she asked softly. "To Marcus, to the company, to everything we've built?" Daniel's expression softened. "Loyalty isn't about holding on to what's broken. It's about honoring the truth and protecting what matters. Right now, that's you, Evelyn. And the company you've rebuilt. You deserve someone who respects that, who stands by you, not someone who drags you into the past." She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a man whose integrity and courage were unwavering. For the first time in months, she felt the tight knot of anxiety in her chest loosen slightly. Over the next few weeks, their bond deepened. Daniel accompanied her to board meetings, helped refine financial strategies, and even joined her at press events, acting as both protector and partner. In private moments, they shared conversations that revealed their values, dreams, and fears. One evening, after a long day of crisis management for a new acquisition, Daniel suggested a walk along the river near her apartment. The sun was setting, casting golden reflections across the water. "I've been meaning to ask," Daniel began, his voice low and tentative, "how you feel about us. About what's happening between us. Evelyn exhaled, the cool air filling her lungs. I feel cautious, but hopeful. There's trust now, and respect. Something I never had before. And yes, I want to see where this goes, slowly. He reached for her hand, brushing it gently. Slowly is fine. I'm willing to wait. As long as we're moving forward together. Her chest swelled with a mix of emotion, relief, affection, and a quiet happiness she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Together, she agreed, squeezing his hand lightly. Yet, just as the calm settled over her life, reminders of the past began to surface. A press article hinted at lingering questions about Marcus's involvement in other financial dealings. Whispers from former colleagues suggested that not everyone believed the scandal had been fully resolved. Evelyn felt the familiar tension creep back, but Daniel's presence offered reassurance. We handle it together, he said. Whatever comes up, we face it side by side. She nodded, grateful for the support. Side by side, she echoed. That night, as she lay in bed, Evelyn realized that she had learned an important truth. Love wasn't just about passion or desire. It was about trust, loyalty, and the courage to allow someone to stand with you through challenges. And with Daniel, she had found all of that. Someone who valued her for who she was, not for her status, her connections, or her past. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to imagine a future that was not shadowed by betrayal or scandal. A future where she could be loved, respected, and supported, and where she could love in return. Evelyn smiled to herself, a quiet, contented smile. The scandal had tested her, challenged her, and broken her in ways she hadn't expected. But it had also led her to this moment, to a place where love and loyalty could finally coexist. And for the first time since the divorce, she believed in the possibility of happiness again. The morning sun spilled over the city skyline as Evelyn stepped into Hale Industries, her heels clicking confidently on the polished marble floor. Months had passed since the embezzlement scandal, but the echoes of whispers and doubts still lingered. Today, however, she wasn't just stepping into an office. She was stepping onto a stage where every decision, every word, would define her legacy. Her assistant, Claire, approached with a tablet in hand. Mrs. Hale, there's a live interview scheduled in 20 minutes. The press wants to know about the recent allegations regarding the acquisition deal. Evelyn took a deep breath, steadying herself. She had faced scandals, cleared Marcus's name, and rebuilt the company. But the public's memory was short, and rumors spread faster than facts. Today would test not just her business acumen, but her resolve. Schedule it, she said calmly. It's time they hear the truth directly from me. At the studio, the interviewer wasted no time. Cameras flashed, microphones hovered, and Evelyn could feel the weight of public scrutiny pressing down on her. Mrs. Hale, the reporter began, recent rumors suggest that the embezzlement scandal is far from over. How can shareholders and the public trust that Hale Industries is stable? Evelyn met his gaze steadily. Hale Industries has always been built on integrity, transparency, and resilience. The embezzlement issue has been fully investigated. The responsible parties have been held accountable, and Marcus Hale's name has been cleared. I am fully committed to leading this company with diligence and honesty. The reporter leaned in. Some suggest that the company's leadership is vulnerable because of the previous scandal. How do you respond to that? Evelyn smiled faintly, the confidence in her posture unmistakable. Leadership is not defined by the mistakes of others, but by the courage to address them and move forward. I've worked tirelessly to ensure that our company remains strong, and I will continue to do so. Trust is earned through action, not assumption. The cameras flashed, capturing her every word. But for Evelyn, this wasn't about the optics. It was about reclaiming control of her narrative, proving that she could rise above betrayal and scandal with dignity. After the interview, Daniel joined her behind the studio, his expression a mix of pride and relief. You were incredible, he said, handing her a bottle of water. Confident, composed, and completely in control. Evelyn exhaled, finally allowing herself a small laugh. It feels good to set the record straight. To show that this company and I are more than gossip and speculation. He smiled, a warmth in his eyes that made her heart flutter. And to see you standing tall. It's inspiring. I'm lucky to be here with you through all of this. Her gaze softened. And I'm lucky to have you. I couldn't have done any of this without your support and honesty. For a moment, the weight of the scandal, the betrayal, and the public scrutiny lifted, replaced by a quiet connection that neither of them needed words to define. The weeks that followed were a testament to Evelyn's resilience. She handled acquisitions, met with shareholders, and navigated high-profile meetings with grace and precision. Every step she took reinforced the fact that she wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. Daniel continued to be her anchor, offering guidance, support, and companionship. Their relationship, once cautious and tentative, blossomed into something deeper, built on mutual respect and shared experiences. One evening, as they walked through the rooftop garden of her apartment building, overlooking the sparkling city lights, Daniel took her hand. "Evelyn," he said softly, "you've handled everything with strength and grace. The company, the scandal, even the personal challenges. And through it all, you've stayed true to yourself." She smiled, squeezing his hand gently. "It hasn't been easy. But having someone who believes in me, it makes a difference." He looked into her eyes, his expression tender. "I don't just believe in you, Evelyn. I admire you. And I care about you. More than I ever thought I could care about someone again." Her heart skipped a beat, a warmth spreading through her chest. "I care about you too, Daniel. More than I ever expected." They stood in silence for a moment, the city lights shimmering below them, a quiet acknowledgement of what they had survived and what they were building together. In the following months, Hale Industries stabilized and even began to thrive, thanks to Evelyn's leadership and the transparency she maintained. The media, initially skeptical, now reported her achievements with admiration, highlighting her courage and intelligence. And in her personal life, Evelyn allowed herself to embrace happiness fully. Daniel was no longer just a colleague or supporter. He had become her partner, her confidant, and the person she could trust with both her heart and her future. The divorce and scandal had once threatened to define her. But Evelyn Hale had proven that betrayal could be overcome, that strength could rise from heartbreak, and that love could bloom even after the darkest challenges. For Evelyn, standing tall wasn't just about business success. It was about reclaiming her life, her dignity, and the chance to love again. And this time, she would do it on her terms. The sun had barely risen when Evelyn stepped onto the balcony of her apartment, the city stretching endlessly below her. The past months had been a whirlwind, the scandal, the divorce, reclaiming Hale Industries, and the slow, steady blossoming of her relationship with Daniel. Today felt different. Lighter. Full of possibility. Daniel joined her, coffee in hand, his presence quiet but comforting. "Morning," he said, offering the cup. "Morning," she replied, accepting it with a small smile. They stood side by side, watching the first rays of sunlight hit the skyline. There was a comfortable silence between them, one that didn't need words, a shared understanding that they had survived the worst together, and now the future felt wide open. "Evelyn," Daniel began, his voice cautious yet warm, "I've been thinking, we've faced a lot in the past months. The scandal, the company, the media. But through all of it, we've built something real. And I don't want to lose sight of that, even with new challenges ahead." She looked at him, her eyes softening. "I feel the same way. It's rare, finding someone you can trust completely, especially after betrayal. I don't take it lightly." Daniel smiled. "Then let's make sure we honor it. Together." Evelyn nodded, feeling a surge of hope. Together, it wasn't just a promise. It was a new horizon. Back at Hale Industries, Evelyn's focus shifted to expansion. With the scandal behind them and Marcus's name cleared, the company was poised for new ventures. But growth brought challenges, and Evelyn knew that careful planning was crucial. Daniel stayed close, his expertise complementing hers. Together, they navigated negotiations, investor meetings, and strategy sessions. Their synergy was evident, not just in the business decisions, but in the subtle trust that allowed them to anticipate each other's thoughts and actions. One afternoon, as they reviewed plans for a major acquisition, Evelyn paused, looking at Daniel. "You know," she said, "I never imagined this year would bring anything good. But somehow, it has. And a lot of it has to do with you." Daniel's expression softened. "I just wanted to help you succeed. And maybe be there for you too." Evelyn smiled, the tension of the past months fading. "You've done more than that. You've reminded me that life can be fulfilling, even after heartbreak. That there's room for happiness again. He reached for her hand, his touch reassuring. Then let's keep building it. Together. As autumn gave way to winter, Evelyn and Daniel's relationship deepened. They shared quiet dinners, late-night walks, and small adventures that reminded them life was more than boardrooms and spreadsheets. Every moment reinforced the bond they had formed, a connection grounded in respect, trust, and shared resilience. Yet life had a way of testing even the strongest foundations. One morning, Evelyn received a call from a potential investor expressing concern over lingering doubts about the company's stability. The conversation was polite but firm. They wanted assurances before moving forward. Evelyn took a deep breath. She had faced challenges before, and this was no different. Daniel, she said after hanging up, we need to show them that Hale Industries is stronger than ever. That the scandal hasn't weakened us, it's made us better. He nodded. We can do this. Together. That evening, Evelyn prepared for a presentation to the board and key investors. Daniel was at her side, reviewing slides, refining talking points, and offering calm support. When she stepped into the boardroom, Evelyn felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. But this time, it was accompanied by confidence. She wasn't just facing skeptical investors, she was demonstrating her strength, her vision, and the resilience that had carried her through every trial. The presentation went flawlessly. Questions were answered with clarity, concerns addressed with transparency, and by the end, the room was filled with nods of approval and renewed confidence in her leadership. Afterward, as the last investor left, Daniel approached her with a proud smile. You did it, he said. Evelyn exhaled, a satisfied smile spreading across her face. We did it. And now, we can look forward. That night, as they walked hand in hand along the riverbank, Evelyn felt a profound sense of peace. The scandal, the betrayal, the divorce, they had all been part of her journey, shaping her into the woman she had become. And now, with Daniel by her side, she felt ready for the future. Evelyn, Daniel said softly, stopping to look at her. No matter what comes next, I want you to know. I'm here. For you. Always. Her heart swelled. And I'm here for you, Daniel. Always. They continued walking, the city lights reflecting in the water, a symbol of the bright horizon ahead. Together they had faced betrayal, scandal, and uncertainty. And now they were building a life based on trust, respect, and love. For Evelyn, the divorce scandal had been the end of one chapter. But this new beginning with Daniel, was the start of something truly extraordinary. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of winter, as Evelyn stepped onto the terrace of Hale Industries' newly renovated executive suite. It had been months since the scandal had rocked her life, but now the city seemed to hum with possibility rather than tension. She glanced at Daniel, who stood beside her, holding 2 cups of steaming coffee. His presence was steady, grounding, and comforting, a reminder that through betrayal, heartbreak, and chaos, some things could still be genuine and lasting. Here's to new beginnings, he said, offering her a cup. Evelyn smiled, accepting it. And to standing tall, she replied, clinking her cup gently against his. The past year had been transformative. Marcus's betrayal had forced Evelyn to face her fears, reclaim her independence, and prove herself not just as a capable CEO, but as a woman who refused to be defined by someone else's deception. Hale Industries had recovered beyond expectations. Investors now had renewed confidence, the board fully supported her leadership, and the company was expanding into international markets. But the most significant change was personal. Daniel had become her partner in every sense, a confidant, advisor, and companion who respected her strength while offering unwavering support. Their relationship had grown from cautious trust to deep affection, a love forged in the fire of adversity. That afternoon, Evelyn received a message from the media. An exclusive feature highlighting her leadership and resilience had gone live. The headline read, Evelyn Hale, the woman who turned betrayal into triumph. As she read the article, Daniel leaned over her shoulder, a proud smile on his face. Looks like the world finally sees what I've known all along, he said. She laughed softly, feeling a sense of vindication and satisfaction. It's not about recognition. It's about proving to myself that I can rise above anything. Daniel's hand found hers. And you have. Every step of the way. Her heart swelled. The journey from betrayal to empowerment had been painful, but it had also been illuminating. She had discovered her resilience, her intelligence, and her capacity for love, even after heartbreak. That evening, Hale Industries hosted a celebration to honor their recent achievements and the successful turnaround following the scandal. The atmosphere was lively, filled with colleagues, investors, and friends who had witnessed Evelyn's transformation. Daniel stayed close, but gave her the space to shine. As she gave a brief speech, acknowledging her team and expressing gratitude for their support, she caught sight of him in the crowd. His eyes met hers, warm and encouraging, and she felt a deep sense of contentment. After the applause died down, Daniel approached her, taking her hand. "There's one more thing I want to celebrate," he said softly, guiding her to a quieter corner of the terrace. Evelyn raised an eyebrow, curiosity sparking. "Oh!" He smiled, reaching into his pocket and producing a small, elegantly wrapped box. "For the woman who taught me about courage, strength, and love." Her breath caught. She opened the box to find a delicate bracelet, simple yet elegant, engraved with the words, "Together, always." Tears pricked her eyes as she looked up at him. "Daniel. It's beautiful." He slipped the bracelet onto her wrist. "This is just a symbol," he said. "But I want you to know that I'm here. In business, in life, in love. Always." Evelyn felt a warmth spread through her chest, a mixture of relief, happiness, and hope. "And I'm here too," she whispered. "Always." The night sky glittered with stars as they stood together on the terrace, overlooking the city that had once seemed so overwhelming and unforgiving. Evelyn realized that the divorce, the scandal, and the betrayal had been painful chapters, but they had led her to this moment, to a life filled with empowerment, love, and possibility. Daniel's hand found hers, fingers intertwining naturally. "Are you ready for the next chapter?" he asked, his voice soft but filled with conviction. Evelyn smiled, feeling the weight of the past lift from her shoulders. "Yes," she replied. "And this time, we write it together." As they stood there, side by side, Evelyn understood that true triumph wasn't just about business success or public vindication. It was about reclaiming her life, embracing love without fear, and trusting herself to navigate whatever challenges lay ahead. The divorce scandal had threatened to destroy her. Instead, it had forged her into someone stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace happiness fully. And with Daniel by her side, Evelyn Hale knew that her journey was only beginning. A new horizon filled with promise, love, and the unshakable confidence that she could face anything life presented. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more original novel stories. And stay tuned, our next story is coming soon.